Here we're looking at a broadcaster that wants to launch an OTT service. They have their own library of content and they want to charge $8 for the service per month. Now, why did I choose $8? I wanted to look at this from the perspective of an OTT service such as Netflix, for example, that charges $7.99 for their subscribers, and just see how the numbers really come out from using the same figures. Some of the controls that we want to establish here in understanding and creating our return on investment is in knowing how many HD movies they have, SD movies. The combination is 6,000 altogether. They want to generate and ramp up to 10,000 subscribers over a 2-year period. And then we also, in this analysis, need to understand the usage from a subscriber perspective. And in this case, we're going to use 8 HD movies and 12 standard definition movies per month. So any subscriber here will look at 20 movies per month. Initially, there is some transcoding costs and other types of setup costs, which bring us to a return on investment at around the 6 to 12 month period. In this case, it's about 9 months. And this is quite typical with the clients that we have, is seeing a return on investment within the 6 to 12 month period. We see in this example profit of $243,000 at that 2-year mark. And these assumptions that we're making in terms of building this model effectively turn into metrics once we run the service. So as we run the service, as we're saying there's 8 HD movies and 12 SD movies, we look at the actual usage and then we play with those numbers on a month-by-month basis and see how that plays out in terms of the return on investment. Some of the data that we gather in order to generate our return on investment is understanding the type of monetization model that our clients are looking at, whether it's subscription-based or transaction-based or advertising-based, and those all play a role in terms of how we create our return on investment model. There's also the sources of content, whether there's actual sources that exist within the organization or they need to be purchased outside, let's say premium content that wants to be purchased from Hollywood and they want to add that content to their library, then that plays a role in terms of content sources. The size of the library, whether it's HD, SD, or even 4K content in the future, how those users are using and the number of views per subscriber plays a role in terms of how we build out the ROI model, and then how we expect subscribers to grow on a monthly basis. And not only looking at the growth of subscribers, but also the attrition, how we're potentially losing subscribers on a monthly basis to competitors and so on. Not something that we want to think about, but it has to be built into an ROI model to make it as accurate as possible. But one thing that's interesting in the ROI models that we set is that as the years progress, then the return on investment improves. So in this case, after year 1, we have $1.5 back, and in year 2, $2.8 back, and in year 3, $3.3, and it improves going forward. And what this allows us to do is then use that profit in terms of new features, new content that we can add in order to enhance our competitive position and maintain our subscriber loyalty. And finally, one thing I wanted to add here is really the considerations. And we can build this into the model, but it's not built at the moment in terms of variable usage. Some clients, based on demographic, will use the service differently, and then having a different model built in for each of those different types of users. International expansion also would play a role as the service expands to other countries. And also how different types of content is added. I mentioned the premium content before, but also user-generated content could play a role. And then finally, consideration is efficiency. As we move forward in time, there are new features that are added to the service and functionality that improves the user experience. There's better compression, which improves the efficiency of delivery and storage, and that saves costs. And there's also the scaling aspect. As we add subscribers, the price per subscriber actually goes down. Does the model factor in the client's cost of user acquisition, promotion, buying placement on search engines? So the model that we created and that we showed you in this presentation doesn't include that, and that would actually be a very good expansion of the case study that we have. And let me mention that this case study is really customized for every single client. So let me finish off answering the important questions. So in running an OTC service, it's really important that you understand the usage of your data, the behavior of your subscribers, the marketing efficiency and the effectiveness of the service, and then how much money you're actually making. So here are several questions in terms of usage. How is your content being used? Which content has been played the most and for how long, for example? And getting the details from your dashboard and modify the service accordingly to make it more effective. From a client perspective, how clients are using my content, how subscribers are engaged on my service, and understanding that from the perspective of drop-off rates and other types of abandonment rates, whether there is use of advertising or not, and then playing with that in order to make it more effective. So the more you know, the more valuable information you have at your fingertips in order to modify the service so that it's effective as possible. Next is marketing. How effective is marketing and how easy it is to find my content? It's search engine optimization, and also in terms of finding content within the context of your OTT platform and making sure that subscribers are finding what they're looking for. And then finally, how much money am I making? Whether it's how much money you're making within your platform, or if you're syndicating that content, how effective are your syndication and distribution partners in syndicating your content, and measuring that as well, then you can help to optimize those distribution outlets. So there are several other questions I didn't really go through, but we wanted to just give you a highlight of some of the questions you should be asking in order to know how robust and how successful your OTT platform is running. So are you convinced? Allow me to suggest that if you're not entirely convinced of an OTT platform, then why not adopt a hybrid strategy? This is a strategy where you take some of the pillars that I talked about earlier and some of the modules within those pillars and say, okay, I want some of these pillars within my organization, and I want some other components and other modules in the cloud, because that makes me comfortable in terms of a infrastructure strategy for OTT. Maybe as time progresses, you'll move more services to the cloud, making a service that works for the infrastructure and the legacy platforms, for example, that you're working with at the moment. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.